Listen, I'll be the first to admit it. I enjoy gambling. I think it's fun. I think it's like a source of entertainment. I almost think it's a little too fun. Like, it's definitely a problem. I'm doing this video because I want to address the fact that pretty much everything has become gamblified. I had this like awakening moment when I was I was looking into who the next Venezuelan president would be. Now, why was I doing that? Because I had money on it. That's not good. That's not healthy. I can't bet money on the next Venezuela. I'm not even Venezuelan. I'm not even close to Venezuelan. And it was a real like, hey, let's stop and think about why am I invested in the Venezuelan presidential election? I want to emphasize that whatever I talk about in this video should be taken very, very seriously, and in no way should you look at this video and be like, I want to engage in some of these platforms that Alex is talking about. I really, really hope that I can emphasize how bad this is and how nobody should get into this. This should never be a source of desperation. It should never be a last resort. Only if you ever want to gamble, you should only ever gamble with money that you're comfortable losing, aka recreationally, which I still wouldn't recommend doing. Anyways, let's get into the video. Have we gone too far with gambling on everything? I kind of want to talk about how did we end up here? I think it's pretty obvious that sports betting has become something that we see on the regular. It's almost normal at this point. And you almost wouldn't believe that it wasn't as normal like 5-10 years ago. No one was like on their phone saying, yo, I'm gonna parlay how many times Drake touches Nick Nurse in the NBA finals. Yes, that was a real bet. I got into it in the 2019 finals for the Raptors because I was like, oh, like this is fun. It makes the game more exciting. Like I said before, I have gambled. I do enjoy gambling, but it's everything in moderation is fine. We've gone way too far in terms of what sports betting, or let's just call it online gambling, has really become. It used to be like this weird niche part of the internet. Now it's like the internet. It's up there in the mainstream. I wanted to talk a little bit about how we got here. This is the online sports betting industry in the US. I want to show you this chart of the revenue that this industry generates. You might look at this and say, hey, there was nothing in 2017. And yeah, there actually wasn't. And we'll get to that in a second, but let's just look that from 2018, where it did under $1 billion, 920 million, to 2024, projected by the end of the year to be about $14 billion in revenue. That's a 14 times, more than a 14-time jump in the span of 6 years. A 14x jump is unheard of. That's how quickly this industry grew. So it's like, okay, how did we get here? How did this happen? Why was this industry so primed for a pop? Well, there was a decision made back in 2018 where the Supreme Court ruled that, hey, it's unconstitutional to not allow people to bet on sports. So they struck down this 1992 federal law that said sports betting is illegal and made it legal. And now it went to the states. Okay, each state can kind of have their own way that they want to interpret that. Now you get into the lobbying game. So lobbyers went crazy, and you have people like DraftKings and FanDuel who have been like waiting on the sidelines. And this article summarizes it pretty well, how a lobbying blitz made sports betting ubiquitous. And I wanted to highlight one part of this article. As we talked about, less than 5 years ago, betting on sports in the United States was prohibited. DraftKings and FanDuel's had already mobilized an army of former regulators and politicians to start getting sports betting legalized in as many capitals as they can. I think they have a nice map in here somewhere. This is our current state. I guess as of November 9th last year, of what states have legalized sports betting. Do you know how fast this happened? These guys spent so much money lobbying politicians in all of these various states and saying, hey, you know, like, you'll get more tax revenue and you'll get this and you'll look how much we're projecting that this is going to make billions of dollars for your state. Now that this barrier has kind of been broken, advertising started flowing, sponsorships, influencers, and you start ending up with ads like this. So I pulled up a few that I think are morally just so questionable. Like, let's watch this ad together from FanDuel.
Garbage time. That phrase never sounded quite right, because no part of football is meaningless. So while some folks see garbage, FanDuel sees treasure.
These guys are punting their whole fucking life savings on this shit. Look at this guy who's way too excited.
See spreads to cover, overs to hit, and chances to live bet from the first down to the final whistle. So don't just watch football this season, cherish it. Bet.
Don't just watch football, cherish it. There's no other way to enjoy your favorite sport than having a fucking 20-way parlay on whether... I don't know what color the fucking Gatorade's gonna be. What the fuck is that about? Anyways, why are people betting money on that? I find ads like this just so questionable. How is this allowed? This guy is at a party. There are people behind him enjoying life, and he's like, nah, let me sit on my phone. These guys, the place closed. The chairs are on the table. The chairs are on they need them to go. They're still watching. And look, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, sure. DraftKings, same thing. Don't think they're doing any better.
They say fortune is fickle. Wrong. I just know what I like! And it ain't settling for 3. Because life's a gamble. Name is guaranteed. Gamble. Evil, gunning it for glory. Love. Gamble. So let's make it interesting. I put $1 million in up to 5 DraftKings sportsbook accounts.
Lay it all on tonight's game or kiss it goodbye.
What?
Hello, Fortune.
Game or kiss.
What? $1 million free bets? What does that mean? This ad is just kind of trying to get you riled up to say, you know what? Hey, I'm not no bitch. I'll sports bet my whole life savings away. I hate this. This was a Super Bowl commercial. This aired to, I don't know, like 50, 100 million people. Like that's insane. That can't be allowed. That should not be allowed. We enter kind of this second phase of what I want to talk about, which is what is the outcome of this push that these gambling companies have done ever since the Supreme Court legalized it. And this article summarizes it quite well. We are killing the youth of America. There are now calls growing for crackdowns on U.S. gambling. Whereas that gambling addiction has spiked in the U.S. have led to this is extremely worrying. There are rehab treatment clinics that are having an influx of patients, teenagers and people in their early 20s. Teenagers, they're not even supposed to be on these apps. And helplines, the helplines, the ones that we see here. Do you have a problem? Call these numbers. There are a lot of kids that are gambling, and it's a very, very, very growing problem. For this video, that wasn't the whole intent of this video, to talk about sports betting. I actually didn't want. It's been talked about more than enough. What I want to talk about is how, as a result of this, what has spawned in terms of internet culture into other forms of gambling that have become so prominent that it's almost problematic. And I want to start with one that some of you may be familiar with, which, you know, let's do one just for the vibes here. Oh, gold. But yes, we're going to talk about CSGO. We're not going to talk about it for too long, but Valve back in, I think it was with Team Fortress 2, whenever they released their community marketplace, they unleashed a wave of new young gamblers. As a 14-year-old playing Counter-Strike at home, would save pretty much all the money I made in my job. I was coaching tennis at the time, and I would put it on CSGO skins. I was full on becoming like a gambling addict as a child. And there was no restriction in place to make that not happen. And that kind of became a gateway that eventually I discovered sports betting. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then eventually I was old enough to go to casinos. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. But where did it all start? It can be traced back to things like this. And, you know, people talk about gateway drugs. It's real. This shit's real. The final thing I really want to talk about, which is the final boss of the gamblification of everything, is a company that has recently become super popular called Polymarket. Polymarket originally got my attention because I'm of the belief that money talks when it comes to people's opinions. You can be the most staunch Democrat, but if you don't believe the Democrats are actually going to win, I'm not going to put my money to predict that they will. Polymarket turned out to be this really cool platform where you can see the odds of certain things happening in a more realistic fashion. Because money's on the line, people are not likely to just spew random opinions. Now, they might still think those opinions are true, but that's important. It's like the most pure form of polling. And so I've been tracking this because I found it really interesting. Donald Trump's odds of, holy smokes, is this real? This is crazy. But look at his odds of winning over time. Like he had, especially when Joe Biden was the runner against him, he was in the 70% chance of winning. Since Kamala took over, you can see these odds have completely changed. I realized something in me, there was like a spark, and I was like, oh, this is really bad. You can bet on what? You can bet on anything. And how do these guys make money? Right here. In every trade, there's transaction fees that you pay in this USDC coin. It's a crypto that is just a USD. Anytime you trade anything, there's a small fee that's applied. They make money off that fee. The markets on this app are insane. There are things that you can bet on, like what will Kamala Harris say in August? Is she gonna say brat, weirdo, coconut? Is Bieber's baby gonna be a boy or a girl, which for some reason is trending towards boy? Will the US confirm that aliens exist in 2024? There's a 4% chance. I will give them credit for one thing, because I saw markets on wars, and specifically in the Middle East right now, what's going on, and I was like, this is actually dystopic. Like, we are now betting money on ongoing wars. So I click on it, and they actually have this disclaimer that they provide these markets at a loss. I actually did really resonate with this. People wanted a way to understand the wisdom of the crowd. And I think there is something to be said about that, but I don't know. It's a very, very big, like, moral question mark in my heart. With the rise of how expensive things are, all of these companies in common are trying to appeal to people who are trying to make their situation better through desperate means. It really brings out the negative in this, and it makes it very hard for me to support. So I just wanted to highlight some of these things, kind of how we got here. What does this mean for the future? Maybe you guys let me know in the comments what you think. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe, because I want to keep making more of these. Don't bet, no gambling, please. Thank you. Peace.